is up, everybody? Welcome back to the garage, which is actually not my garage, it's the bigger garage, but it's a garage nonetheless. If you watched the last video, you know that we went around and installed some stiffer springs all the way around, and we still need to do some alignment stuff, but we are here to do an install video today to solve another problem that I had at Hallett, which was my brake pressure. The issue I'm having now is I upgraded to SUPERMIATA's big 1175 brake kit, and the stock master cylinder can't keep up with the larger brakes. To solve that problem, we have a other solution from SUPERMIATA, which is Wilwood's 1-inch master cylinder upgrade. The theory is that with the larger piston inside the master cylinder, we'll be able to push more brake fluid or more pressure to the front brakes and help the pedal feel less spongy, more predictable, and be a little bit more confident, inspiring on the track. But the only problem with it is you kind of have to give some to take some. This upgrade is also going to throw the balance off on this car completely, but it'll still allow me to adjust it a little better with the brake proportioning valve and then allow just a little more confidence inspiring braking. This is your stock master cylinder, and this is the Wilwood. A lot bigger, obviously 1 inch versus like a 3/4 or whatever that is. They kind of provide a complete kit. I won't say it's a direct bolt-on, but it is for the most part a direct bolt-on, including some lines that allow you to tie in the factory lines without having to do some crazy modifications. And they also provide you, if you want to run it this way, with remote reservoirs to run these inside the car or whatever. But I'm gonna save these for a later time. But for now, we're just going to install the cans directly onto the master cylinder, and we will be doing an install video on how to swap out your stock Miata master cylinder for Wilwood's or SUPERMIATA's 1-inch Wilwood master cylinder upgrade. So in the kit, they provide you with a couple things: Wilwood master cylinder, reservoirs, remote reservoir mount, a backing plate, which is to adapt the Wilwood style to the Miata master cylinder, hoses, plunger, and all the fittings you need to tie in the brake lines. Now, the only difference with mine that you may not have is I have a home development brake booster delete, and I am very curious to see how this is going to mount with the new Wilwood cylinder, because I have a feeling it's going to come out to quite a bit, and hopefully it doesn't interfere with the Nat Motorsports TDR Racing intake pipe, and hopefully I can run his master brace again with the new kit. So let's start by draining this out and then start breaking these lines loose, which they should be relatively loose because I've had this off before. So all right, so now that I got that drained, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to go inside the car, go underneath the dash, and I'm actually gonna remove the pedal from the master cylinder. All right, we're underneath the car here, the dash, and that is the brake pedal. And as you can see, there's your retainer clip for the master cylinder rod that goes into the piston there. You gotta remove this clip here, which is kind of a pain, but pull that clip out, pull this pin out, and you can pull that back. So, all right, so got that little retainer clip off. Going to reach in here, wiggle the pedal back a little bit, pull that off, and there you go. The whole rod assembly comes out from the back of the Firewall there. So you can see that there is no rod. Now we will go back up to the top and take the master cylinder off. All right, so now we're gonna take a 10 and we're gonna break these loose. Hopefully these come off. Like I said, I've had this off before. Oh, there it goes. And the reason why this looks like this is because I deleted the factory proportioning valve. You'll have a little proportioning valve system here. Come off. All right, so here's a little bit of size comparison and difference between the factory Miata one and the Wilwood. I mean Jurassic difference. He caught it. I'm a dinosaur. Oh man. Leave that one in the bloopers. All right, so got a reader out here, and here we have about 1.3 inches versus probably 1-ish. Now the internal is what makes the difference, but I'm just gonna go for size here. This is mounted horizontally, and this one is mounted vertically, at least as far as this goes. So that is what this plate is for here. It allows it to adapt to this mounting position. So we're gonna get this plate installed here, and then we will get this onto the car. All right, what's going on here? What happened? Okay, so behind the scenes, I was actually getting ready to figure out how this went together so I can provide you guys with a more detailed explanation of how this kit worked. The issue I ran into was your factory reservoir here has 2 front lines going in and then 1 rear line going out. So what they did for you is they provided these nice pre-flared fittings where you screw in your 2 front lines, use these 2 adapters here to attach them to here, which then attach to your 2 front lines here. That was no problem. Well, my problem was I was trying to figure out where the rear lines went. On my car, I had deleted all the factory proportioning valve systems, everything, and I hooked it up internally. So where that would plug into, I no longer have. So I discovered that my custom line here, which this is the factory side, and this is my custom line fitting, I discovered the custom line fitting side fit into the Wilwood master cylinder. But the problem was this side didn't fit into anything. So my solution, since we don't really have parts available, was this is from a rear, I believe, Mini Cooper brake line assembly. I'm gonna take these fittings here, undo them, cut them, and repurpose them into this line here. So that allows me to connect this to that without using the soft lines and then be able to hook that up. So a little complicated, but sometimes you recycle parts off other cars, and these are the same exact brake line size. So we're gonna get this to work and see what we can do. So these are the parts from the Mini Cooper right here. And this is my old brake line. And what I'm gonna do is use this junction joint here to redo this line. So this is gonna go here, all right? I'm gonna flare this, a nice little bubble flare. And then this part is gonna go and replace this part. So that way these connect together, and then I don't have to go get any parts. Let's take this off, cut this back as short as I can, and then that way I can maximize the use of line that I have available right now. I've got that flared out. Now let's install it. Got that installed. We'll leave that a little loose and then go from there. So what I went ahead and did for the front, I went ahead and there is a long kind of banjo bolt style thing in the kit. Went ahead and installed that, and the easy way to do it is basically use the bolt, put your washer line, washer, and then install it into there. And we'll leave them a little bit snug so I can rotate this around, but we are going to mount it to the Firewall now. So now we're going to take the adapter plate and mount it to the Firewall. All right, so there's that. Okay, so I kind of got it mounted up, so now I just got to figure out where I want to, or how I want to hook up these lines. Yeah, it's a bit wild, but one of these is going to go here, and one of these is going to go here, and I'm not quite sure I like the look of that. And then this one is going to go underneath here. It's almost like if this line was longer here, you can just run it straight down to the left brake there, but it's not quite long enough for that. I think for now, this line is gonna have to run like this. This line will go into here, which I can kind of move out of the way. And now I gotta put this line underneath here. So we'll do that. So one last note before we finish in here. One thing you gotta make sure you gotta do is make sure this piston here, or the rod, bottoms out into the master cylinder beforehand. This pedal goes all the way to the floor and touches the Firewall without it bottoming out on the master cylinder wall. the potential for failure. Like let's say if one of the cylinders or one of the reservoir goes bad, it'll still function partially. If this doesn't happen, you might risk, like if one of the cylinders or something fails, that you will have no brakes whatsoever. So adjust what you need to do to make that work. For me, as you can see, I had 2 holes. The top one I drilled because of the home development kit required you to do that. So I just put it back down to the factory one, and now it fits and doesn't bottom out anywhere. So it sounds like it, but it's not. I have plenty of room back here. Put my fingers back there. Yep, we're good to go. All right, now that we got everything installed here, we are going to start bleeding the system and see if we can get some fluid running through some stuff and see if everything is set up right and see if we have leaks and whatnot. So we're using some Motel 600 for the brake fluid. We're just gonna fill this up. And we're gonna pressurize the system a little bit and then bleed the system. So we'll see how much pressure we get out of it. All right, 1 bar should be plenty. I've had these explode, and you definitely don't want that to happen because it is a treat for sure. Can't see it, but it drained a little bit. Okay, so the chambers are separate on these, which is like obvious, but at the same time, not obvious. I bled this out through here, so now we're gonna go through the rear, because the front is the rear, and we'll bleed those 2 out. We're gonna have to go back and forth like that until we have the system fully bled. We'll start with the rear now. I'll show you how cool this system is. We're at about a little over 1 bar of pressure. It's probably a good thing, because this system hasn't been bled since last season. I mean, I usually bleed it quite often, but there we go. That's what's nice about this system, is you can kind of just sit back and let it do its thing. It doesn't look like it's flowing, but if you look at it right here, it's like slowly going down. Okay, so now we got the rears bled. I'm gonna undo this, make sure it doesn't leak too much. And I'm gonna plug it into the front reservoir, which is in the back. Slightly confusing, but there's that. And we'll do the same thing. We'll pressurize it, check for leaks, and then we'll bleed the front brakes. So we're doing the rear, and if anything were to leak, I think it'd be the rear one, and just because there's a stacked banjo fitting in the back, I just gotta make sure I got it tight enough and collapse the washers enough. So right now we are at a little over 1/2 bar, so 11 psi or so, and I don't see any leaks. So what I'm gonna do is I'll pressurize it to about 1 bar or 15 psi, and I'll let it sit there for a second and watch to see if the pressure gauge here drops. And if it doesn't drop, then we'll bleed. But if it drops, we gotta look to see if there's a leak. Off camera, we actually opened up that rear reservoir there, and quite a bit of air came out. Ignore that, that's just this feeding air out of the system. But quite a bit of air came out of that one. So probably gonna get a good amount of air off these calipers here. So we will start bleeding. I have a little, I don't like the size of these. They're 1/4 inch, it's really inconvenient, but you know what, it is what it is. But we will get this rear. I always like to start with the rear one. Let's see what comes out. Oh yeah, there's a lot of air in here. Look at all that air. We will go to the other side and let's see which air comes out of that, because that was a lot. Did you know there's a set of Falcons, RT660s? They'll come out and get you. It's a Falcon. Oh, wow. Dude, the fact that this pedal feels wildly different. Before I had to push this all the way down to activate this rear brake, but now it's like, that's just, yeah, that's insane. This feels, I'm gonna clean everything up, put the wheels back on, and we're gonna go for a little test drive. I don't really have the full alignment on here, so we won't do too crazy stuff, but I'm curious to see what that pedal's gonna feel like, because judging by this, that's gonna make a huge difference, because before I'd be like halfway to the floor even at a stationary point. I know that's not like a 100% way to judge the way the brakes are gonna feel, but you kind of get a general idea of what something's gonna feel like just by pressing that. So, okay, so I got those all cleaned up here. I did all my markings that I always do. That one got a little messy because my finger touched it, but all these markings to let me know that, hey, these aren't rotating. We don't have any leaks. I'm going to put the wheels back on now. Well, here we go. I'll roll forward and see if it's free. Doesn't feel like it's dragging. Okay. We're not dragging, that's a good thing. Dude, I don't think you guys understand how much force I'd had to put into the old pedal to do what I just did there. I don't think I've ever been able to lock all 4 of these tires up. This is insane.
So it stops now?
I confused the car, it stopped so fast.
Lots of front bias.
Holy shit. Oh my god, this is way better. Oh my god.
You can feel it. I can feel a difference.
I've never been able to lock the brakes up. Good. Guy's not having it. It was very hard to feel with that old setup because it was already almost all the way at the ground. So now I'll be able to actually feel like the harder I press, I mean, I locked them up immediately. I've never been able to lock these up. And that's coming on a track and like really going for it. I've never locked them up, so.
Do you want to hop in?
Hup, hup. Whoa. Stalled it. Yeah. The brakes are faster than the car can think.
So is this set to a rear bias right now?
This is set to, pretty much rear. So I'll start off like this, and then I'll give it a test, and throughout the race, I'll kind of just mess with it if I want more bite in the front, because generally once the fronts warm up, I'll start off with like this. So I'll get a little more initiating brake in the first couple halves, and then throughout the race I'll just slowly increase it because they get too much, and then I can just add a little more rear. So most of the time you'll see me in some of my videos, I'll just sit there and kind of like play with it until I kind of find a happy medium. and then it's usually right around like this area. So
That's awesome.
yeah, this makes a huge, that supercharger makes a big difference in this car.
Oh yeah, that was giving me the roller coaster stomach big time.
Yeah. And the thing is, it feels like a NA power band. You're not getting this like boost lag or anything. It's just like, it just feels like it had 200 horsepower or 230 horsepower from the factory.
Because it's like a, it's a Pro Charger technically, right?
Yep.
It's a hybrid supercharger turbo.
Yep.
Like a belt-driven turbo.
Yep.
It sounds like a turbo.
Yep. So it's a belt-driven turbo by Rotrex. So
Wow.
okay, this is a must-have if you have any sort of big brake kit. Switch to that 1-inch cylinder unless you're boosted, but you gotta do that because this feels completely. It literally feels like a boosted assembly from factory. Let's say when you're first getting into track racing and you just put some really aggressive pads on your Miata. That's what that feels like. And then I deleted the booster with the home development kit. Now, as soon as I touch that pedal, it's already inputting on the brakes. So my input is being directly correlated to the brakes, which it hasn't had since, I put the big brakes on there. So I've never been able to lock these up, and hopefully didn't destroy the tires, but I just went down the back straight, hit it, and all of them immediately locked up, and I've never been able to do that. So I think the proportioning is a little bit weird, but that home development on-the-fly proportion assembly I have in the center really helps out with that. And yeah, that is a must-have. SUPERMIATA, thank you for having that kit available and making that up, because that is amazing. They do not pay me to do this, so don't feel like I'm trying to force you to do that, but if you have something, go ahead and look into that kit, because this is, it was literally direct bolt-on. I had to do a little bit of modification for my setup, but it's amazing. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you want to see anything else with this, anything related to this car. I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the description below to where you can find that master cylinder. I'm going to leave a link to AWR products, Spike Performance products, and the Track Dog Racing Supercharger. And when you go to checkout at AWR Racing, use code ZITRO for 10% off on your discount. Whew. All right, guys, I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm so happy. That's something I should have done a long time ago. Once again, thank you, SUPERMIATA. And as always, guys, I will see you at the track.